All right. I'm hoping somebody shows up. Yes, I do have sound. All right. I'm going to wait a little bit. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Seems that my microphone is now, or is it? Is it working or is it not working? Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. It was working. Okay, there we go. See if I get my settings here. That does that. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Ah, there is sound. Outstanding. So once again, let's try this again. I am your host, the Rabyd Atheist. Hey, Fred. Boy, that was interesting. For some reason, YouTube didn't like my microphone the first time, but as always with technical issues, I am inept, and I still am working on that. But let's get to some of the things of why I'm live streaming now. Mostly, uh, just because I need something that'll save me a little bit of time. Okay, good. I'm glad the sound levels are good. I don't know why YouTube didn't like my microphone the first time, but we'll figure it out. But I'm kind of heading in a slight new direction now that I can live stream a little bit. One of the things I'm hoping to save is a little bit of time. Editing 4 or 5 videos a week is challenging to me at times from a time constraint point of view, and I'm hoping that I can do some live stuff that will help me just basically pull some stuff from the live stream, and I can do videos that way, and that'll help out a lot. I'm not sure about all the other things that I want to do. I've got to adjust a few things. Mostly, I am not used to this huge screen of mine. Okay, cool. The amount of work editing videos, yes, Nan, is very, very high. Even if you're just doing simple ones like mine, it's very, very difficult. My biggest problem right now is I notice I'm looking down a lot, and that's because my chair is so low, and I can't do anything about that because my chair is broken, and I would rather put it up. Oh, Mr. Cool, thank you. Yeah, this is kind of the other reason I want to do live is I don't always get to interact live with people, and it's not a good thing for me. So hopefully that'll help. But I did want to talk about a few things this week. The new direction for me is just this is where I'm going. I'm going to live stream, I think, the Bible study too on Tuesdays, so people can interact a little bit better, and I can just interact with questions on the fly if I need to, or hold off on them until I got the main presentation done. So there's that. Plus, yeah. So plus things are definitely going in a more positive direction for me. I've been getting a lot of things done, so I've been very, very busy, and this, I think, the live stream will help. I'm still having emotional issues looking into the camera. My autistic self doesn't like that any more than looking into somebody's eyes. So unless I trust you, so which drives people nuts. But there it is. Let's see on the agenda. I think I'm going to do the. I want to do the divine command theory stuff first because I'll talk about Biden in a little bit. But the divine command theory stuff, I got a lot of comments this week about divine command theory from theists. I mean, what other morality do we use? Hey, it's Trucker. Hi, good to see you, man. Divine command theory for me now, of course, fails as an atheist. Yeah, you make a good point. Thank you, Tony. I'll have to deal with that later. Actually, I hope to replace my Viking rune meanings with that wonderful YouTube plaque at some point. So that's kind of a placeholder for the plaque. Um, so I had a few comments by theists about divine command theory, and one of them was, "Well, what do you do then?" Yeah, thanks, Fred. Um, but they made the comment that what do you do without it? What happens? And part of the comment was, okay, well, what then? Do we just do a might makes right morality? And I'm thinking to myself, you do realize that divine command theory is a might makes right thing, right? You do understand that. If you have an objection to any other moral theory because it's might makes right, then why do you hold the divine command? That was kind of one of the things that really puzzled me about that comment. But I was looking up different types of moral theories and things like that, and discovered quite a few. Um, that we have without a God. Utilitarianism is one. Um, the ontology, which is Kant's thing, but I don't really buy that one. Relativism actually has a moral theory behind it. Virtue ethics, egoism, natural rights. I think, yeah, man, that's the issue. It's kind of a excuse, isn't it? We've got to have God around to blame is more the issue for me. I think it's more of they wouldn't put it that way where we're going to blame God for things, but at the same time, that's kind of what they're doing, isn't it? They're, if they do something that's most people would consider morally bad, they can still justify it by saying, hey, God told me to do it. And that creates a real problem. Yeah, the other problem is the whole proving God exists theory. Yeah, that's a real true problem. So, I was looking at all these other theories, and I realized that I'm kind of a combination of several of them, and that's the other thing about morality. I think that what is it that people fear here if God's not around to give rules, and I think they fear that you know they're going to actually have to think about their moral system for themselves. And I think it's one of those great challenges that I've had since I've deconverted is, okay, why am I a moral person? Who who am I as far as morality? What am I trying to do? And there's a lot of work in being a non-believer and trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. And I don't think that a lot of people realize how difficult that can be. I mean, there's a lot of, we talk about difficulty in video editing, talk about difficulty level when it comes to coming up with your moral system. I've always found that very interesting too. It's like, okay, now I've got to back off. Mostly I just kind of do a combination of stoicism and virtue ethics, but what is the right thing to do in this situation? What was a rational, you know, person that's trying to be a good person do here? And most of the time that works. Okay. So for me personally, it's been working. Yeah. Consent. Yeah. That's a definite part of it. You know, because morality is always about dealing with other human beings. It's not just, I think there's also a part of it with yourself, because I often maintain with theists, you're only good because you feel somebody's watching you. I'm good when people aren't watching me. Okay. I still try to follow my virtues for my own sake when people aren't watching me. Because I think one of the things in morality that people miss is part of morality is dealing with yourself. How are you moral towards yourself? Okay. You are a person. Morality should affect you as well. And following certain moral systems is beneficial. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Yeah, empathy. That's a good one, Tony. It's a tough one. See, and once again, being empathic towards yourself, treating your own feelings with respect. Something I'm learning in therapy is I've made the joke several times. I am the world champion of autistic masking. If I don't want you to know what I'm feeling, you will never know. And so frustration for my kids and my family and my friends, because they have to literally ask me what I'm feeling sometimes for me to even process it and tell them. And so when you bring empathy into morality, now I'm having to consider it as a moral question too. So it's very interesting, this whole moral discussion. Without a God, how do we be moral? I don't know. It just makes it more complicated. Um, but it doesn't mean that I can't have some. I think that's the biggest thing for me as a guy who runs a channel trying to normalize atheism and deconversion is it, yeah, Nan, you and me both. Okay, you and me both. It's just in trying to normalize this is getting people past this notion that they need somebody to tell them what to do. Um, that your society is kind of telling you what to do all the time, but at the end of the day, you have that issue of, how do I do the right thing? What is the right thing to do? Uh, am I being empathic towards this other person? Am I considering their feelings? Am I considering what they do? And I think that's one of the things that just as a real challenge as an atheist to me, is just looking at the moral system. So, I've been, it's just been a lot of, right now, apologists are really stuck on the moral argument. It's just absolutely amazing how many of them think that the moral argument is so convincing, and how much of them buy this whole idea that my morality should be given to me by somebody else. That it's a dodging of personal responsibility on your own morality. I can't blame any God for what I do when I do something wrong. Okay. I can't do that. Yeah. It's Tony. That is the question. Are we going to advocate our personal responsibility? The best way to do that is divine command theory, because you can always blame God. You can always say, well, this is what God says to do, or this is what God's word says to do. It's if God words says to do it and we were to follow that morality, the biblical morality all the way through, there would still be slaves. There would still be men justified in beating their wives. There would still be, um, the whole abusive nature of a patriarchal system. There would be all of this stuff that would currently, yeah, it would land us in jail. And that's the real issue that I have with the divine command theory, is because they think it leads to a morality, but it leads to a certain morality as subjective to whatever God gives it. And Yahweh is a absolute jerk. Okay, I would use stronger language, but I am not trying to monetize here. But when you really look at Yahweh in the context of today's moral systems, he would not hold up. Okay, he would just not be there. He would just be gone. So, yeah, I continue to marvel at this argument, continue to marvel at it, because I don't understand anymore the need to be watched to be moral. That I have to have a big brother to make me a moral person, so to speak. A 1984 Big Brother system where I'm watched all the time, and that's the only reason I behave correctly. I just find that just stupid. I just find it dumb. If I'm going to test my morality should be present whether somebody's watching or not. And I can't remember the Jewish rabbi that said it, but he said something to the effect of, God gives us atheists because atheists don't do things for reward or punishment. They do them because they're the right thing to do. They're the human thing to do. And it was actually a very flattering comment from a theist. And I thought that was interesting. He kind of acknowledged that atheists have their benefit which is a good step forward for a theist, I guess. Let's see. Oh, I had a comment this week asking me if I was going to retract my prediction that Biden would stay in the race. And yes, I guess I have to. I was actually kind of um, stunned a little bit, actually, because I've been watching Biden's career pretty much all my life, and he always had this stubbornness where he wouldn't quit, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but he did quit. So what does that mean to all the Christian nationalists out there? Well, they actually have somebody running against them that could actually beat them. Okay, so um, Kamala Harris is a lot of things, but she's a very aggressive person, and I think she's going to go after Trump. So that'll be fun to watch. Um, the conglomerate polls still have Trump ahead, but not by much anymore. Well within the margin of error, unlike before. So this is going to be a close one. Uh, yeah, honestly, Nan, I agree with you. I think it was a well played strategy because I think what they were doing is they were looking at the poll numbers about Biden, and I'm being pure political scientist here, and it's a hard hat to wear because you have to pull away from your personal feelings about it. Because sometimes I've remarked before that Trump the first time he was elected had an excellent strategy. That's why he got elected. He dismissed all the news. Um, as fake news. That was a brilliant move on his part by using the term fake news all the time. And a lot of people, well, it's still a good strategy. Well, the Dems did a good one here too. I think they realized the polls weren't going for them. Biden was outside the margin of error to lose. And so they knew they had to make a change. And somebody convinced Biden to drop out. And I've watched this man for a long time, okay, when he was in the Senate, and his stubbornness has actually been a good asset for him at times politically. And I was very shocked when he dropped out, but now that he is, I guess it's brilliant because now they've closed the gap. They've made it a fight. It's going to be a fight down to the wire. It's going to be good. From a guy who likes to watch from the stands, this is going to be fun to watch. Actually, looking forward to a presidential debate. I haven't done that in a while. I want to see what they do against each other. So we'll see that. And of course, the ads are running, and that's all fun. It's an interesting. Yeah, I think Frosty Warlock, you have a valid point. The issue is state by state. I've tried to tell people we don't have a single election for president in this country. We have 50 of them. And then we use electoral college to kind of reconcile the issues. And we try to keep our states each having a little bit more power, even if they're small. So the bigger, large populated states don't dominate the smaller ones. It's a balancing issue. Love it or hate it, I guess. It's still here and still part of political strategies. So it's some of the states that are going to be battlegrounds that she's got to win. I've noticed both the Republicans and the Democrats are heavy in my state. Hail to the victors, Michigan here. So they are campaigning hard here. And so there's a big differing back and forth opinion in the state. Lots of commercials on TV right now. Both sides trying to persuade the other. It's definitely a battleground state again. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's a brilliant strategic move for them. I don't think so. No, actually, Frosty, I think Hillary lost that one too. I think the last election I'm trying to remember. Did Hillary win the popular vote? I'm not sure. I can't remember. But the popular vote, you can talk about it, jump up and down about it, all of the rest of the stuff. That's not what determines the president in the United States. It's the Electoral College. And you vote for who's, she did win the popular vote. Okay, yeah. So, but that's, that's not the way the system works. It's designed to keep the smaller states a little safer so they don't get bullied. Although the way we divide up our states is kind of weird too. That's a matter of history. So this is just a weird system. Yeah, Al Gore did win too. He won the popular vote, but lost the election first time. So I think only the Republicans have benefited from that. But the first time those two things happened, I think that was actually a benefit to the country because the Republicans back in the 1800s were still progressive. And so, yeah, Google always says the right things, I'm sure. So that's that one. I don't know. I think if I was a Democrat strategist, I would still be very concerned about Congress and holding on to Congress in some way, either the Senate or the House. So, I mean, if I was a strategist, the Democrats need to really take this election seriously and push it. Because if they don't, I mean, I don't see the Supreme Court changing anytime in the next 10 years. So there's a lot of talk, but Congress never really does anything about the Supreme Court. They might. I've been stunned before, but I don't think they will do that. So you have a very conservative Supreme Court for the rest of that. I think they got to definitely get Kamala Harris into the White House. People have asked me what that would be like. I don't think it would be any different than Biden, because on a practical level, I imagine Camilla has been running a lot of things already with Biden's health issues, and now everything's out in the open about Biden. So, yeah, I can see that she's probably already been running things to a certain extent. Yeah, FDR was definitely a first progressive type president for the Dems. The Republicans had always been the progressives up to that point in a lot of ways, particularly socially. It's just been a weird thing that's happened. But if I was also them, I would start focusing on the House, because if they could take the House back, and there are some races where they could win, that's a good thing. The Senate they need to hold on to. And if they can make the executive branch legislative thing a little bit more in their corner, I suspect that then they could kind of fight the court a little bit. But otherwise, I don't sure what's going to happen there. I'm just being a political analyst and trying to be as honest as possible here about the election. People's viewpoints, I have my own, but I'm just analyzing things. So there's that. Yeah. And let's see, what else happened this week that I'm reflecting on? Mostly my own autism and hypersensitivity. Holy crap, this week. BP pick will be critical. Yes, Nan, you are correct. I don't know. All right, in the comments, who do you think the Democrats? Who should Kamala Harris pick for her VP? I want to hear that. That one's a puzzle for me. If it was you, who would you pick? Who would you pick for the Dems? Which person would you grab out of that sea of Democrat governors and senators to be the VP nominee if you were Kamala Harris? I'm interested in that one. So, just give it some thought and write down a name or whatever. But it's a very interesting question. Bernie, I don't know. Tony? Yeah. Bashari's popular. Yeah. I think he would definitely help her win the South, at least get more support in the South. Bernie, I think Bernie has said that he's getting a little too old for this game himself. I can't remember where I heard him say that, but yeah, he's going to have the same problem as Biden. And you need a Bernie-like person, but somebody who's younger. I think that's the thing in politics right now that drives me nuts. And before Camilla got into this, it was like how many old people can we throw into this thing? It's like, I don't know. I just want to see something. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just, I don't know. America is always a weird place, Fred. We are a strange bunch. And it's because we are genuinely a group of people, for the most part, that came from all over the world and decided to form our own nation. And because of that, we have very, very strange things. I mean, our candidates tend to be reflective of what's popular. Um, I'm firmly convinced that people that would be very competent rulers don't bother with politics. They go do something else. Um, yeah, Bernie is recognizable. He also kind of brings the old factor into it. What if something happens to Camilla, or can he even do the job? Um, as somebody who's getting older, the ageism bothers me in politics, but I understand, you have to take each person as they come. And, Biden's showing some obvious issues to everybody, and even Democrats were acknowledging it when they're asking him to drop out. Bernie is recognizable, but I've seen a couple of his latest interviews, and he is starting to look that way. Yeah, Fred, I agree with I agree with your granddad. People who want power, yeah, they worry me. And Trump is definitely one of those people that wants power. He liked it. You could see it when he was the president, that he just enjoyed the revelry of it and the power of it, and it was kind of scary at times. I don't know. Some people say Camilla's that way too, but I think that's the problem with politicians in general. They all want the job. Uh, it's very rare for people to be dragged into politics. You have to. As somebody who's held public office a couple of times myself, um, what did I dislike about it? Having to placate a bunch of people that didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Um, our whole system is designed to protect us against the ignorance of the people. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. A lot of people want the power because it's fun. They think it's a fun time. It's kind of, they don't what is it? Uncle Ben's quote to them doesn't really work. With great power comes great responsibility. They don't want the responsibility part. A lot of people don't. I was a very responsible person, which is why I wasn't reelected. Uh, I lost both my elections when I was up for reelection, and I didn't really, I enjoyed it, but I didn't really want the job. Okay. The more I got into being a school board member, the less I liked it. It in our country, school boards kind of run your local school district, but they don't really, I guess is the way I'd put it. Yes, I am back. Hey, Owl, how you doing? Um, the problem with political jobs is when you're elected, you're always placating people, and you know what the information is in front of you is is what you're basing your decisions on. Okay, and plus, in my state, the state of Michigan tends to force, you know, yeah, Kruger, probably. I try to be positive, and politics gets negative in a quick hurry, even at the local level. And, it becomes a popularity contest, and it's easy to slander somebody at a local level in particular. You just have to start a rumor, and the gossip mill takes over. Hey, Azzo, you're late. Um, so, it's for me, being on the school board was just a challenge for a lot of ways. And now that I know that I was autistic doing it, I now understand a lot of those challenges. The social interaction part was always difficult for me to read. I'm a much better analyst when I'm sitting outside of things and just watching it than I am when I was with it. And I couldn't see like the different political movements that were moving against me because they didn't like me as a board member. Um, the reason they didn't like me is I would stand for my principles a lot. I have many times, if you look up the records of the voting, a lot of the votes were 5-2 and 6-1, and the 1 or 2 people is usually me. Okay, because I just didn't like the decision. I know you were, asshole. I know you were early the last time, but so what? Got to be on time every time. It's okay, asshole. I still love you. It's all right. Um, so yeah, that's when you talk politics. Okay, holding office. I think a lot of people, if they knew what was involved in holding office, they'd be a little bit more sympathetic to politicians to an extent. But then they would stop being it when they watch them campaign. Campaigns are full of lies, and politics is full of skullduggery, and that's part of the problem with most political systems. Um, Democracy is not democracy is not always the best system. I'll just put it that way. I'm not going to go, Anakin Skywalker on it, but yes, all people should be in dissent. I mean, if you're going to run a proper democracy, then you should absolutely distrust the decisions it makes, because the mob has a way of doing whatever it wants to do. And so, yeah, let's get out of that. I'm much more of a critic. Yeah, all the other ones are worse. Yes. Um, so there's that. Any other thing that happened this week that I'm interested? You can always post your questions in the chat. I get a lot of FAQs every once in a while. Looking at the future of the channel, I am considering doing a lot of things, but I think the schedule is going to start to shift. There will be a reaction video on Mondays and Thursdays as usual. But I think I'm going to live stream Tuesday and Fridays eventually once I get done with my Seeing Behind the Religious Curtain series done. So I want to do that and move this back to Fridays. I've been doing it on Saturdays for a while, but I want to move it back to Friday. And then, so you have this, what I want to do is like regular videos, and then out of the live streams, I'm hoping I'll pull out some videos as well. And I haven't decided, but I may still do a third video, a regular one. So it's going to help a lot. A Newsboys music video, Frosty? I haven't heard of those guys in a while. Holy crap. I really should someday do a Seth Andrews and do all the crap, the popular Christian stuff I did as a teenager. Thank you, Kruger. I appreciate that. I think the biggest thing that I get a lot of hate, actually, Kruger, from my theist friends. And I think it's because I'm a pastor. I'm a former pastor, and I was in this for so long, this Christianity thing for so long. And it's like you're another Judas. It's like, God, it's like, damn, Yeah, I know. The Newsboys are still there. Oh my God. Man, I should do something like that. What was all the stuff I was into back then when I was a youth and a Christian? Certainly, let's see, Petra was definitely a big one for me. I like Striper, but Striper was, they were not as good as some of the other metal bands. Let's see. Man, I had a lot of them. Bride was a good one. They had some good music. The problem I have with my Christian rock days and my Christian metal days is when you're a Christian kid and your parents are like going I don't want anything non-approved. Okay, non-approved of. And you are in a denomination, the Assemblies of God, which is very holiness based. I had more fights with my pastor at the time about whether I should listen to this demonic rock and roll or not. Whiteheart, yes. Thank you, Danny. Yes, I love those guys too. I had like, oh, this is going to date me. I had like 3 cases full of cassette tapes of Christian artists all over the map. Um, Man, Daniel Amos, bunch of other ones that were kind of weird. I was very much into alternative metal, anything that was different than pop and mainstream. Still am. Pop artists. I don't know, the way I assess music. If you try to interrupt me while I'm listening to music, um, if you try to, if I'm listening to music and you try to get my attention, good luck. Okay, because I'm all in. Yes, Amos did a lot of good stuff. Yes, I'm supposed to know all the secrets, Tony, and I tell you, it's not really that much of a secret. Religion, in large part, is the world's oldest scam. Okay, it is selling you shit that can't be proven, and in gratitude for them helping you out, you give them money. If I were to break down all religions, it seems like that is the case. There are some that are better than others. There are some that are more philosophy than religion, and some of it, all that. But Christianity, I can tell you what it's like to be a pastor. Jesus is Jehovah Me. Still love that song. Okay, that's one I haven't heard. Boy, but I had asshole. I had a lot of stuff back then. Oh my God. Because I was always looking for alternative. And what nobody knew at the time is I was also listening to like Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, Metallica, all the harder metal bands at the time in the 80s and 90s. I was listening to them. Folk music, actually, I do like some of that too. This is the weird part for me now. If I like it, I like it. Okay, and it doesn't really matter what genre it is. I think I even have a couple country songs and a couple rap songs in there somewhere. Um, I love a cappella groups, things like that. So it's kind of one of those. I like harmony. Okay, maybe that's my autistic nervous system just loves good harmony in music. A lot of people like that. I'm all in when my mother cut me on classical music. She cut my teeth on music with classical music because she was an orchestra person. And yeah, agreed, man. Good music is good music. And then I grew up, my dad was big into Johnny Cash and all the doo-wop and all that stuff from the 50s. And I grew up listening to harmonious voices and music. And my dad unknowingly gave me my interest in harder rock by having this album in his library. It was Iron Butterflies in a Calvita. And I listened to that and listened to the other side with the other songs. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And, that next thing I know, I'm listening to Black Sabbath and a few others like that. And going over to my friend's house because I wasn't allowed to have secular music in my house, although my parents were. I always thought that was a bit of an irony. They all had their music collections, but I wasn't allowed to collect anything secular. So raps. Neil Diamond and Evita. Yeah, my dad was a Neil Diamond person. Mom too. My dad and mom both kind of coalesced on the doo-wop thing, the 50s doo-wop. That was their big jam that they would do together. So I grew up with this whole eclectic nonsense, and I guess I've just stayed with it. Good music's good music to me. So Yeah, I don't know. Black Sabbath and Kiss. The funny part about Kiss, I work in the town where they got started. Cadillac, Michigan is where they hail from, and so there's like a plaque at the high school still on the football field of all places because they dropped down on the Cadillac football field by helicopter and played a concert. And they've never really kind of forgotten their roots in that. So Kiss and yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, I liked him too. I think I finally eventually the metal groups that I got me the most were Metallica and a few others like that, as Metallica has very deep lyrics. You can say what you want about the band, but their lyric writer, the man, he's very deep when he talks about a lot of subjects. So I've always found him interesting. I think that's the thing about music and religion and everything. Yeah, Priest, Judas Priest, still love some of their stuff. I don't know. I never got into the metal genre. One metal genre is better than the other, though. It has to sound like music, otherwise my ears won't resonate with it. It has to be. I don't know. It's got to be good, whatever. And that's such a relative value judgment, isn't it? So, but yeah, if you like it, listen to it. I think the whole purity culture thing with it too was interesting because a lot of times when I saw pastors back then going up against like certain types of music, oh, it's suggestive. I think Olivia Newton-John was one of their on their hit list because they went after her a lot because she definitely talked about sex a lot, um, and so there was a lot of that in my early upbringing. Is they're just trying to protect me from all that stuff. Um, and it's funny because I'm in a youth group at the time. Our youth group when I was little, like 12, 13, was like 20 people at the time. And I remember I accidentally, we were at church and I went behind the church for something. I was looking for something that one of the adults asked me for, and literally caught the vice president and the secretary of the youth group basically doing it behind the church. So um, that was an interesting moment in my Christian reflections. Trying not to. It was. I don't know. I often wonder if most people, particularly young people, are just, how shall I say it? They play the game for their parents when it comes to Christianity. And I think that's what that couple in particular was. They were just trying to placate their parents, but secretly, I'm going to tell you something. My upbringing in the Assemblies of God taught me how to be a sneaky sinner, is what it did. And so, yeah, when I look back at it, it's one of those things that bothers me because I realized how much of a hypocrite you have to be. I don't think it's escapable. If you follow a very strong Christianity, um, you're going to end up being a hypocrite somewhere. You're going to have to play the sneaky sinner game. And I think that's what I learned in the 80s as a youth. It's just, yeah, Owl. Actually, there's a lot of choir music I still like. I sang in the choir in my last church, and I don't get to do that anymore. Actually, that's one part of the Christian thing I miss. Um, and there's no good choir around here that's secular. So I live in a small town, so go fig. I think the best we do is we have a theater group in town that does productions. I don't know. I like drama, but I don't know if I want to get that involved in it at this present time. Not without somebody around to help with the apartment and stuff like that. So, but I don't have that. I have to do everything myself. And Gladys Knight. Yeah, yeah. I remember all these artists that are. I remember when Prince died. I was upset about that for some reason lately. Because I used to listen to some of his stuff. Uh, who else? Just a bunch of them. Yeah, it's of course, the Rolling Stones keep rolling. They're never going to die, I guess. Um, so yeah, music, interesting topic. Yeah, religious music. I mean, am I going to sit there as an atheist and say like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony isn't a good symphony? No. Yeah, Handel's Messiah. I've heard. I still love listening to this stuff because it's. Yeah, I still love listening to the religious music because some of it's really good. Um, yeah, oh boy, Jimmy Swaggart. Yeah, I remember when he fell. We got a lot of when I went to Trinity Bible College. We got a lot of influx from that because of the fall there, and we had a lot of former Swaggart Bible College people that came to Trinity. They transferred. Um, Frosty Warlock. My last church, I had an organ player that was so good. Um, he was just, and we had this old, like, kind of electric pipe organ kind of thing in the corner, and it was just beautiful stuff. Uh, but yeah, I really liked what he did, and then he got sick and died, and that's part of my deconversion story actually, because I was doing his funeral as an atheist, but pretending to be a pastor at the time. That's probably one of my more interesting stories. Um, and yeah, uh, it was just one of those things where I'm like trying to, just trying to find something nice to say about him. I mean, if I focused on him and his music, and he was just beautiful, great stuff. Choir, organ, I miss some of that stuff. Classical music seems to be steeped in religion at times, though some of the artists get away from it. It's probably why I like Mozart. He doesn't seem to do too many religious things, except when somebody commissioned him to do something. Um, so there's that aspect of it. I don't know. It's just been probably part of the deconversion aspect for me is the music part of it is like it's the music that kept me in. Okay, let's talk about how music here can make you feel like you're part of something. I mean, you know, it's the emotional uplift because I was like when I when I was pastoring my first church, I think that's when 9/11 happened, and Hillsong Music sent us like a CD for free, and the music just kind of I liked it. Still probably with but it's when you do that kind of modern worship today, it's very much at a I think you're right, Nan. It's the religious experience itself is a lot of music to it. There's a reason why, I went to a Wesleyan seminary, in Asbury, and they were big into hymns. Uh, so it's like this moving of emotions, this getting people to beyond thinking, I guess, is kind of the biggest thing in religion. And the music does that a lot. Okay. It's why when I was a preacher, I moved from very, intellectual, didactic type preaching, teaching to much more of an emotional appeal because I knew, yeah, agreed, Dan. Musical high from this high that we get, the emotional high we get from music is just unbelievable. It's rare because nothing else gets our emotions stirred, does it, Nan? Music will do that to me every time. I don't know what it is. Um, yes, elevation. There's a lot of, I'm not too far from Grand Rapids, and there's a lot of those cool hipster churches that do modern worship. Hey, aloha. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you again. Um, yeah, religion is about emotions. It definitely is. but there is an intellectual side for those who are into biblical studies and theology and stuff. It's a pseudo intellectual side for those that are a little bit more intellectually focused. But I stayed in the faith a lot for emotion. I think it's hilarious to me now that apologists are going, "You're just an atheist because you're angry and something happened in the church." And it's like, bro, I stayed in the church for as long as I did because of emotion. It certainly wasn't for the intellect. Okay. It wasn't because you guys had great reasons for me to continue being part of the church. It was much, much more about the emotional connections with the people and the music and all of that. Okay. I know like a lot of these preachers, what is it? The guy on Wretched goes after people because it's all about the worship music and it's not about the truth of the gospel. I'm like, dude, they're the ones that are keeping the church alive. I have me and the Kentucky Atheist have collaborated on a couple of things. Nobody really contacts me as much. Um, Part of my problem is scheduling because I do work a real job besides YouTube. Um, uh, I did do some stuff for Tim Mills where I collaborated with him. I think some of you had mentioned my interview with him. It's one of the most popular interviews on his channel is my interview with Tim Mills. So I've done that. Nobody's really asked me, and the problem is some people have asked me, and it's like it's a bad time slot what they want me to do. I sleep during the day. I work at night. I have a 40-hour a week job on top of doing this, and so usually the best days are like Fridays and Saturdays, and some of them just haven't asked. So I don't know what'll go forward there. Um, Now that I'm live streaming more, I'm going to look at StreamYard, see if I can do a little bit of that. And so there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of us that have deconverted and we're talking, and most of us are just being a voice here. And I do not consider myself in competition with any of them. Okay. It's not my thing to be in competitive with people that are helping me out. I am going to appeal to some people and not to others. Other creators are going to appeal to some people and not to others. And that's fine. I'm good with that. My main issue with this has always been I did this for 4 years without getting paid a dime. And my issue will be always, 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 always to normalize being an atheist. That when somebody tells you that they're, if you're a believer and somebody tells you they're an atheist, you can sit there and say, you know, you just look at them and say, oh, I guess I can understand why you'd be an atheist and understand what an atheist actually is. My biggest issue with apologists is how they flipping poison the well about us all the time. Bothers the hell out of me. It's like, you don't even know any real atheists, do you? You don't even do that. Do you really? Yeah, exactly, Fred. I'm normal, honest. Okay, there's two things I get all the time from theists about being an atheist. One, that I'm immoral because I can't have a moral code. We already talked about that a little bit. Um, and, I must be some sort of communist. Hey, Bren, good to see you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Prophet Azad too. I love his stuff. He was one of the first YouTubers when I deconverted that I ran into. Him and Aaron Ra and a few others, and Apologia. I love listening to Apologia because he's an atheist that eagerly is studying the Bible and all the scholarship around it, and I'm burnt out of that. So I love listening to him what the new stuff is. And Aaron Ra became instrumental in my re-education when it came to evolution. So I tried to watch like scientific evolution channels and they just bore the hell out of me. And Aaron Ra has a way of, um, yes, I know, Bren, I know. But, he had a way of explaining things that appealed to me. He had the education, but he also was, yeah, man, he makes it fun. Okay. He always talks about how his scientific videos don't do as well as the rest of them. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I like them. Okay. I think there are a lot uh, of good ones. Yeah. Paul and Shannon Q. Shannon Q, when I first got out of the ministry, she was kind of my unknowing support mechanism for some of the therapy psychological side, because I was still engaging in the clergy project trying to get my therapist, and I kind of ate up some of her videos and kind of helping me there. And Paul deserves some sort of degree at this point. Um, Somebody needs to hand him an honorary degree in like biblical scholarship or something, because he's definitely now educated himself enough that he knows more about this stuff than a lot of people that have graduated from Bible colleges and stuff like that. But no religious institution is ever going to give him that honorary degree. So something along those lines would definitely be, but he's at that level to me. I don't consider him scholastically inferior to myself. I've got a master's degree in theology, a BA in biblical studies, and I know that I would have a great conversation with Paul. Okay, I really would, uh, because he's up there. Okay, a lot of people try to dismiss him, but it's like, nope. No, I'm sorry. He knows his stuff. Okay, he's well read. Okay, probably more well read than some of the other ones that are famous that are apologists. And it's like, dude, because the academia thing drives me nuts, because Brad, you could not survive theology education. It's funny. I think Alex O'Connor actually went to a religious school on purpose and got a degree there. And the reason he did it was to be knowledgeable about the subject from the other person's point of view. That's why he's such a good debater. Um, okay, when he debates religious people, because he knows their lingo. Okay, yeah, theology is. I now look at it as coming up with excuses for God, trying to make God work. So there's that. You died inside. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. For me, I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of bored with it. A lot of what I do here is just me remembering stuff and knowing what I know. I know that the theists don't like it when I talk about the Gospels, because I taught Life of Christ like 6 or 7 times in my churches, a couple of times for a Bible Institute that I created. And so when I talk about the Gospels and say, yeah, they're all hearsay, they get pissed. Okay. It's like they just get pissed off. They just get mad at me. And it's like, no, I mean, I know that, it's just, I'm sorry. If I apply the standards of evidence for a court of law to the Gospels, they wouldn't be admitted as evidence. So yeah, Alex O'Connor. I don't think the moniker the New Hitchens is not unearned by him. His last debate with D'Souza was brilliant. He made the guy look like a complete idiot. Not that was hard, because I've never liked D'Souza anyway, because he's not all that. He's another one of those guys like another one like him is Brian Harrison, the Catholic guy. They say a lot of things, but don't really say anything. Now it's hearsay. I mean, heresy is a theological term, and it's a term that you use to bully people that disagree with you theologically. Yeah, theology. If you're a believer, theology, because you'll hear apologists talk about theology, and they're like, well, if you just know a little theology, all these things would be clearer for you. I know a lot of theology, and it's still not clear for me. It makes it more it makes it worse. There's just this theology is, to, Nan with the word salad about people, theology is a lot of word salad. Okay. When you really read it and you break it down, it, it's saying a lot of things, but when you get really down to what it's saying and what it's based on, it just doesn't have it has any, oh gosh, there's just no real meaning to it. Okay. I mean, how do you, my, my biggest thing when I deconverted was how do I get meaning out of something that has no proof for it anymore? How do I find some guidance for my life and some practical real world stuff? And how do I do that if I don't have something real to base it on? Um, and so theology is like that. If you read a theology, thank you, Kruger. If you read a theology textbook, like when you read systematic theologies or biblical theology books, and I read them now, and it's like it's gibberish. It's saying a bunch of stuff that doesn't really relate to real life. I don't know. I've gotten past it. I don't. Uh, so when I hear a theological argument, I immediately recognize it. The only value it has for me now is I now recognize, I have a good bullshit detector, I guess, when it comes to whether or not something is good. Um, yes, Fred. Yes, bullshit. Um, and that's, that worries me sometimes because sometimes these people get power and it bothers me. Yes, dualism, the soul, this idea. Yes, yes, James Atwell and Ralph Ellis. Yeah, they're good ones. I, I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me anymore. The soul stuff. One of the videos I did this week, like some guy is using consciousness as a proof for God, and I'm like, give me consciousness, a mind without a brain. Give that to me. I've had all kinds of arguments leveled along those lines, like the math argument. Mathematics would exist without. I said, no, I'm not sure math would exist without a human mind to think it or to utilize it as a tool. It's frustrating because so many people accept stuff that's just unproven. Um, and you get frustrated talking to people who think that something is real when it's not. Okay, it gets to some pretty dark conclusions. I remember, who was it? Redeem Zoomer, when he makes the statement, well, God kills everybody, theologically speaking. And I'm like, what the literal hell was my first initial reaction when I heard it. This is what it does to your empathy. I mean, dude, that sounds psychopathic. Do you realize how psycho that sounds? I remember when I watched Seth Andrews and he did his video on religion made me talk like an idiot. I want to do another one where religion makes you talk like a psychopath, a sociopath. I mean, oh my God. Some of the things that I've heard theists say and believers say scare the living shit out of me. I don't know. I listen to it now because I get it all the time. I'll pray for you. I hope you come back to the faith. And this is in the same sentence where right now you're going to hell. It's like, yes, Michael Bell. I think we all became more humane after we deconverted. Most of us, I think, do that because we begin to realize the logic and reasoning behind all the stuff that we do as believers just really sucks when it comes to our fellow human beings. I mean, when you are indoctrinated into the idea that all the human race is sinful and bad, that's a pretty bold thing to say. Um, yeah, they do get. We were talking about this earlier. Divine command theory makes your morality really weird and really bad. Okay, because if God tells you it's okay to kill babies, it's okay to kill babies. Okay, and that's what divine theory. This is might makes right. I'm the big dog. If I say something's right, it's right, and I don't think that that's, to me, that's just not good morals anymore. And you start to see your fellow humans better. You lose some of the tribalism. Um, I mean, when I was a fundamentalist Christian, I remember hating, homosexuals a lot. I don't hate them anymore. Okay, I don't have any dark feelings about them at all. And just the loss of the nonsense that dehumanizes you. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. I'm thankful for that, I guess, more than anything else. Uh, that people led me to that part of it is much, much better, because now I already have problems as an autistic person in social situations. And if you add on top of that a layer of bigotry and prejudice against people because your religion tells you something, then you have an even bigger problem. Okay. Now I just deal with the social anxiety part of it, and I don't have to deal with all the other bullshit. And it makes me a lot more, I don't know, humane to them. I understand people a lot better. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things. So yeah, it's just because I was one of them. I think I have a lot more empathy for them, but at the same time, some of the stuff that comes out of their mouth makes me want to recoil in horror now. I just want to go somewhere else. And I think we all have good stories about that. If you're deconverted, it's hard. Yeah, yeah. We've all had our grow up experience, Fred. All of us. Um, I don't know. I should probably talk sometime on how religion keeps you infantile in your thinking. And I think it's the whole authority thing. Because we have our parents that are our authority or somebody, and so you end up looking at it from a standpoint of always being underneath somebody. That I don't know. There's something about it that keeps us like a child. Okay, even Jesus says that in his book. So supposedly Jesus said, um, you know, you got to come to God like a child. I think that's deliberate indoctrination now. Makes me think that Jesus was indeed a cult leader if he existed. So more of a cult leader than a religious figure that we should emulate. Um, yeah, the drawing meaning from my life, drawing morality from my life is now much more human, and it makes me a better human being. I think I still have my work cut out for me with being more empathy because of the indoctrination. This is why Ed still goes to therapy, because there's all those hidden prejudices and bigotries that don't come out until a situation comes out, and you don't realize what you're emotionally reacting to until you get there. Okay. And then it comes out, and then I'm like, oh, I need to talk about that. I was very encouraged this week. I did have one encouraging thing for me. My one son, who's been dealing with a lot of problems, uh, went to a therapist for the first time this week, and he was, I don't know if I want to do this, and I don't want to blah 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 blah, and I'm talking to my daughter yesterday, and she's like, well, you know what? He made a second appointment. It's amazing how people have that negative attitude about therapy until they start, getting a good therapist. Um, yeah, it's like, yeah, man, you make a valid point, except you should read some of the teachings of Jesus and then think of Jesus as a cult leader saying those things and see if you change your mind about that. because I think the reason why Jesus had this loyal following, despite the fact that I don't know. There's sometimes I think the predictions of where Jesus predicts his death might actually have been said by him. And then when it didn't happen, that's kind of the impetus to have those, hallucinogenic experiences where you see a dead loved one alive again. I don't know. There are hints in the Gospels that might be true, like Jesus speaking with authority and not as the scribes, and he definitely had this way with people, and he was. I think it's a case of like Jesus. If I can use a more modern analogy, Jesus is the Joseph Smith, okay, and Paul is the Brigham Young. Okay, if you understand the analogy, okay, it's Jesus is the original cult leader, but somebody else took what he did and took it to the next level. Okay, so to me, that I kind of think that that's more what happened with Jesus and Paul. Okay, and I honestly think that there might be a guy that was a John the Baptist too, because it has this whole apocalyptic preacher vibe. Okay, when you study ancient apocalyptic groups and people like the Essenes, you really get that vibe from Jesus and John the Baptist and Paul. They're all looking for the end of the world, the final resurrection. And then when Jesus's prediction that, all of the people in front of him wouldn't pass away until they saw him coming back, they had to, excusegetics it back in. I mean, my series on the heroes of faith, I constantly make that point that Hebrews is kind of this excuse stuff. So there's this aspect of Jesus's ministry. This is the real problem, and Bart Ehrman and many other scholars bring this out, is what is the real Jesus in these stories and what is the made up shit? Okay, if he was a real person, and I get that the mythicists have a point. They do have a good point. There's not a lot of historical corroboration that Jesus existed. There is one, but and it's not a very hard one. But if he did really exist, what is the real Jesus there? There's definitely stuff that wasn't said by him and which one is which. But my understanding of how cults work, I would say Jesus must have been a good culter. Yeah, yeah, Lucifer. I think the analogy is a good one. I think Joseph Smith equals Jesus, and Brigham Young and Paul are kind of the same kind of thing. Brigham Young is what made the Mormon church work. Okay, Joseph Smith was constantly getting threatened and eventually did get killed. Okay, Brigham Young had a good enough sense to move west, find a place, and then build his religion from the ground up at that point. So there's a lot of similarities in the development. And, so when Christians say things like, well, how do you explain Christianity's success? I don't know. How do you explain the Mormon success? Same way. It's kind of the same thing. Very similar. Human behavior doesn't change that much. So, in the way things work, and Christianity just became popular because Paul was a good guy to organize it and make it work. And then it grew on its own for a while. And then Constantine comes along and makes it the religion of the empire. And over time, it becomes the religion of the empire. And sure enough, if it had been any other cult that Constantine had followed, we'd be following that today. Okay, we'd be arguing about that today instead of Christianity. I don't know. It's been a good discussion tonight. One which originally ideologue died quickly with a teaching warp. Yeah, right, Brent. I think it's the same kind of thing happened with Joseph Smith too, though, because Joseph Smith's Book of Mormon and all that other stuff did get warped into something else. How do I explain Scientology? People are gullible. Even rich, famous people are gullible. I think L. Ron Hubbard, I read Battlefield Earth a long time ago. But I think on a bet, he said to somebody that he could create a religion that people would follow, and Scientology is the result. He made it up it's a matter of marketing. It's like it's well marketed religion. Yeah, he didn't want to pay taxes, so he created a religion and funneled everything through that, so he didn't have to pay taxes. Okay, so it's when I look at religions, the religions that have survived and have lived the longest are the ones that naturally market well. I mean, let's be honest here. It's the ones that naturally market well that have survived and have political support that have survived. Okay. Hinduism, for instance, is so ingrained into the culture of India. I don't know how you'd get rid of it. Okay. You then have, there's some that just survive. Buddhism survives because heck, some of them are atheists. They just have a spiritualized atheism, and people don't want to give up the spiritual side of things, so they become Buddhists. See you. Yeah, Kruger. Have a good one. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point, because when I look at Christianity now, and who are the churches that are successful, if not the ones that market themselves the best and have the best programs and figure out ways to do things? And it's not about the truth of the message anymore. That's for damn sure. So there's that. I don't know. Well, we've been live for well over an hour, so, and I don't know, my autistic social anxiety is starting to kick in a little bit. So, I don't know. I will continue to work on the future. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking with everybody. There comes a point where I feel uncomfortable, and I've reached it. So thanks for everybody. I'm going to kind of end the stream here in a few minutes. If you have any questions for next time, you can put them in the chat or wherever you want to put them on this video, and I will try to address them next time. Yeah, it was a fun one. I enjoyed it. It's a good conversation, but I'm also going to try to limit my streams to about an hour, hour and a half, because that helps me deal with it. Yeah, see you later, guys. Thanks everybody for coming. I know I had some technical difficulties with the first time trying to run this, so thanks for sticking through that and showing up later. I appreciate that. But I think I'm gonna call it a night. I have the night off, so I'm gonna do one of the other things that my new computer allows me to do, which is play some of the newer games on Steam. So and do my gamer self. So thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things. Consider membership, all that stuff. I appreciate all that. And as always, make sure you're living your best life. Okay. You only get one go around and then it's over. And so I want to make sure everybody is giving all their time, money, and opportunities to making themselves a better person, to the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste your time with religion and faith. It's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.